Picture this. The notification lands, a passive-aggressive email from your boss, a misunderstood text from your partner, or a subtle, judgmental jab at a dinner party. Instantly, your stomach turns, your throat tightens. The instinct is violent and immediate. You feel you need to fix it. You need to explain. You need to make them understand. So, you start typing. You delete. You retype. You rehearse the argument in the shower, pleading your case to a jury that isn't even listening. Look at yourself. You have voluntarily walked into a courtroom, climbed onto the witness stand, and begged for a verdict of not guilty from people who don't even know the real you. This isn't clarifying. This is submission. Every time you rush to defend yourself against a false narrative, you are handing over the keys to your sanity. You are telling the world, your opinion of me is more real than my own reality. It is exhausting. It is a prison built of words. And you are the architect. But what happens if you stop? What happens if you step out of the witness box and let the accusation hang in the air, untouched? Today, we are dismantling the courtroom inside your head. We are going to teach you the ancient Stoic art of silence and why the most powerful response to chaos is nothing at all. To understand why this silence feels so dangerous, so unnatural, we first have to understand the mechanism of the trap itself. Most of us believe that explaining ourselves is a virtue. We tell ourselves it is about clarity. It is about communication. It is about being a good person. But let's be honest with each other for a moment. When your heart starts racing because someone questioned your decision, are you really trying to be clear, or are you trying to be safe? This reflex didn't start today. It started when you were 5 years old. It was carved into you by a world that taught you love was conditional. If you were good, you were safe. If you were bad, you were punished. And the only way to avoid punishment was to have an alibi, to have a reason, to have an explanation. So you learned to talk fast. You learned to offer up your motives before anyone even asked for them. You learned that if you could just explain why you did it, maybe they wouldn't be mad. Maybe they would still love you. Fast forward 30 years. You are not a child anymore. You are a grown adult navigating a high-pressure career in New York or Chicago or LA. But inside, that same 5-year-old is still running the show. Think about the last time you were pulled over by a police officer. The lights flash in your rearview mirror. Your stomach drops. Even if you know you were driving the speed limit, even if you know you did nothing wrong, you feel guilty. And when that officer walks up to the window, what is the impulse? It is to overshare, to fill the silence, to prove you are harmless. Now, take that exact same dynamic and bring it into your office. Your boss sends you a message. Why did we choose this vendor? It is a simple data question, a neutral inquiry. But you don't read it as a question, you read it as an accusation. You don't just say, because they offered the best ROI based on the Q3 projections. No, that would be too confident. That would be too simple. Instead, you write a paragraph. You talk about the other vendors you looked at. You mention how late you stayed up researching. You add a disclaimer that you are open to feedback if they disagree. You drown the simple truth in a sea of defensive noise. And here is the brutal truth that Stoicism reveals, a truth that might hurt to hear. Over-explaining is a submission signal. In the animal kingdom, exposing your throat is a sign of surrender. In the human kingdom, over-explaining is the verbal equivalent of exposing your throat. When you rush to defend yourself against a perceived judgment, you are implicitly agreeing to a hierarchy. You are saying, "You are the judge, I am the accused, you have the authority to determine my worth, and I must beg for your approval." Why do you do this? Why do you feel the need to justify your career gap on LinkedIn to strangers who don't pay your bills? Why do you feel the need to explain your relationship status to your parents? Why do you feel the need to apologize for taking up space? The Stoics called this slavery, not a slavery of chains, but a slavery of the mind. Epictetus asked us a question that echoes through the centuries. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? Every time you explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you are delaying that demand. You are seeking permission to exist. But here is the irony, and it is a bitter one. The more you explain, the less they believe you. Think about the most powerful person you know. Do they scramble to clarify every misunderstood comment? Do they write long, desperate emails when someone critiques them? No. They state their truth, and then they stop talking. Their silence is heavy. It has gravity. It forces you to do the work of understanding them. But you, by constantly explaining, you are doing the work for everyone else. You are frantically polishing a mirror, hoping that if you make it clean enough, they will finally see the real you. But they are not looking at you. They are looking at a projection of their own insecurities. You are exhausting yourself fighting a battle that was never yours to begin with. You are trying to control the uncontrollable, the perceptions of others, while neglecting the one thing you actually own, your own integrity. This is the psychology of submission. It is the belief that your truth is not valid until someone else signs off on it. It is the belief that you are guilty until proven innocent. But what if you are already innocent? What if the anxiety you feel isn't a sign that you need to talk more, but a sign that you have betrayed yourself by talking at all? Recognizing this pattern is the first step, but recognizing it doesn't make it stop, because right now you are probably thinking, okay, I get it, I'm submissive, I'm over-explaining, but if I stop, won't I lose my job? Won't I lose my friends? Won't people think I'm arrogant? You are worried about the cost of silence, but have you ever stopped to calculate the bankruptcy you are facing right now? Have you ever actually looked at the price tag of all those words you've wasted? Let's look at the bill, because you are paying for it with the only currency you can never earn back. Let's look at that bill, because you are paying for it with the only currency you can never earn back. We tend to think of our lives in terms of years or dollars or milestones, but the Stoics, particularly Seneca, viewed life through a much more ruthless lens. They viewed life as time and attention. These are non-renewable resources. Once you spend a minute of your attention defending your character to a co-worker who is determined to dislike you, that minute is gone forever. It is dead. So let's perform an audit, a forensic audit of your energy. Imagine your mental energy is a bank account. Every morning you wake up with a deposit, a finite amount of focus, patience, and emotional resilience. You need this capital to build your business, to love your family, to stay healthy, and to actually enjoy your existence. But what do you do with it? You walk into the office, or you log on to Slack, and the hemorrhage begins. There is a project manager who questions your timeline. It is a minor comment, maybe just a lack of understanding on their part. But you don't treat it as a minor transaction. You treat it as a crisis. You spend 20 minutes drafting a reply. You pull up old emails to prove you were right. You attach 3 different spreadsheets. You CC their boss to make sure the record is set straight. You hit send, and you feel a temporary hit of relief. But look at the cost. You didn't just spend 20 minutes of time, you spent 2 hours of emotional capacity. You spiked your cortisol, you fragmented your focus. And for the rest of the morning, even while you are trying to work on something else, a part of your brain is still back in that email chain, rereading your own words, wondering how they will reply, preparing your counter-argument. You are making a massive investment in a market that offers 0 return. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you explained yourself to a difficult person and they actually said, "Oh, thank you for that 3-page text message. I was completely wrong and now I see you clearly"? Never. It never happens. Because the people who demand explanations from you are not looking for truth. They are looking for leverage. They are looking for a reaction. And every time you give it to them, you are funding their drama with your bankruptcy. Seneca wrote about this nearly 2,000 years ago in On the Shortness of Life. He said, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy." You would never open your wallet, take out a $100 bill and set it on fire just because a stranger looked at you the wrong way. You would call that insanity, and yet you will burn an entire afternoon of peace. You will burn your mental clarity. You will burn your evening with your spouse because you are still fuming about a misunderstanding that happened at 10 a.m. Why? Why is your peace so cheap? Is it because you don't value your own mind enough to protect it? Or is it because you haven't realized that every explanation is a tax? It is a tax on your potential. Every ounce of energy you pour into managing how others perceive you is energy stolen from improving who you actually are. You are so busy looking in the rearview mirror, checking to see if anyone is following you, checking to see if anyone is judging your driving, that you aren't looking at the road ahead. This is the definition of a bad investment. You are trading your gold for dust. Think about the corporate burnout that is sweeping across America right now. We call it work stress. But let's be precise. It is rarely the actual work that burns people out. Writing code doesn't burn you out. Solving problems doesn't burn you out. What burns you out is the politics. It is the constant need to justify your existence. It is the covering your ass. And it is the fear that if you don't explain every move, you will be seen as incompetent. But the Stoic realizes something profound. The most competent person in the room is usually the one who explains the least. When you stop paying the explanation tax, you suddenly find yourself flush with capital. You have energy left at 5 p.m. You have patience for your children. You have the mental bandwidth to learn a new skill or start that side business. You become rich, not just in money, but in presence. But to get there, you have to be willing to do something that feels incredibly risky. You have to be willing to let people be wrong about you. You have to be willing to let a false narrative exist in someone else's head and not spend a single cent of your energy trying to correct it. Can you do that? Can you stand there and watch them hold a map that is completely wrong and not try to grab the pen? Because if you can't, if you feel that irresistible pull to jump in and fix their opinion, then you are not free. You are just a well-paid servant to their ego. So, we have analyzed the trap. We have audited the cost. We know that the courtroom is rigged and the fees are bankrupting you. Now comes the hardest part. How do you actually walk out of the courtroom when the judge is screaming your name? How do you turn your back on the jury without looking guilty? To do that, you need more than just a mindset shift. You need a fortress. And the blueprints for that fortress were drawn up by an emperor. The blueprints for this fortress were drawn up by Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome. It is easy to look at a marble statue of Marcus and see him as a god, distant, unfeeling, perfect. But that is a lie. The man was a human being surrounded by the treacherous sharks of Roman politics. He had generals who plotted against him. He had a wife rumored to be unfaithful. He had a son who was a disaster. Every day, Marcus woke up to a world that wanted to misunderstand him, use him, and destroy him. He didn't survive this by explaining himself to the Senate. He survived by building what he called the inner citadel. This is the Stoic fortress. And the first rule of the fortress is this: you must dismiss the jury. You see, most of us walk around believing that the world is a courtroom. We believe that our co-workers, our neighbors, our in-laws, and even strangers on the internet are the jury of peers. We believe they have the right to vote on our value. If they give us a thumbs up, we feel worthy. If they give us a thumbs down, we feel worthless. But Stoicism asks a question that shatters this illusion. Who gave them that authority? Look at the people you are trying so hard to impress. Look at the people you are so afraid of offending. Are they wise? Do they have their own lives in perfect order? Do they possess a deep understanding of your soul? Or are they just confused, anxious, and flawed human beings projecting their own chaos onto you? Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Read that again. It is absurd. It is a glitch in human logic. Imagine a top-tier NFL quarterback or a Fortune 500 CEO sitting at a press conference after a brutal loss. The reporters are sharks. They are screaming questions. Why did you make that call? Do you think you're failing? Are you going to resign? The lights are blinding. The microphones are shoved in their face. Now, watch the difference between the amateur and the master. The amateur gets defensive. He sweats, he raises his voice, he tries to explain every single play to prove he isn't incompetent. He engages with the chaos, and the media tears him apart. But the master sits back. He looks at the reporters with a calm detachment. He doesn't see judges, he sees people doing a job. He answers the facts, briefly, and ignores the accusations. He knows that the score on the board is real, but the headlines in tomorrow's paper are just noise. He has dismissed the jury. He knows that his competence isn't decided by the people holding the microphones. It is decided by his own internal standard of excellence. This is where you must live. You need to fire the jury in your head. When you walk into that Thanksgiving dinner where your aunt asks why you aren't married yet, or when you walk into that performance review where your boss critiques your style, you must realize this is not a trial. They are just people stating opinions based on limited data. Their words are not a verdict. They are just sound waves, physical vibrations in the air. Why do you let sound waves dismantle your self-esteem? Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, taught us that we cannot control the wind, but we can adjust our sails. In the same way, you cannot control the misunderstanding, but you can control whether you let it inside your fortress. Imagine your mind is a castle with a heavy iron gate. Most people leave the gate wide open. Anyone can walk in with muddy boots, a rude comment, a sarcastic joke, a weird look, and track mud all over the carpets of your peace. The Stoic keeps the gate closed. When an accusation comes, when a misunderstanding arrives, you look at it through the viewing slit. You inspect it. Is there truth here? Is there useful data? If yes, accept the data, correct the mistake and move on. If no, if it is just projection, malice, or ignorance, you simply do not open the gate. You leave it outside. You let it starve in the cold. You do not need to scream from the ramparts, "I am a good person. You are wrong about me." No, the walls speak for themselves. The silence speaks for itself. When you stop treating everyone like a judge, you stop acting like a defendant, and something magical happens to your posture. You stop slouching. You stop over-smiling. You stop adding those weak little nervous laughs at the end of your sentences. You become solid, because you realize that your integrity is not a stock price that fluctuates based on public opinion. It is a gold bar. It is valuable whether it is buried in the dirt or sitting in a museum. Its value is intrinsic. It is yours. But knowing this concept is one thing. Living it when your heart is pounding and your adrenaline is spiking is a completely different animal. You can build the fortress in your mind. But what do you actually do in that split second when the attack comes? What do you say when the silence becomes awkward and your old instincts are screaming at you to fill the void? You need a weapon, a specific tactical tool to override your biology and keep that gate shut tight. And it starts with just 3 seconds. It starts with just 3 seconds, because that is exactly how long it takes for your life to go off the rails. We like to think we are rational creatures. We like to think we are operating on logic and reason. But let's be real. When the pressure hits, you are not a philosopher. You are a biological machine programmed for survival. Let's put you in the room. It is Friday evening. You are exhausted. The corporate grind has chewed you up and spit you out. You walk through your front door, craving just 10 minutes of peace. But instead, you walk into an ambush. Your partner looks up from their phone, eyes narrowed, and delivers the line, "I see you didn't bother to call the contractor today. Do I have to do everything myself?" Boom. The grenade lands right in the center of the room. What happens next is automatic. It is chemical. You feel the heat rise up the back of your neck. Your heart hammers against your ribs. The defense attorney in your brain slams his fist on the table and screams, "Object! Tell them you were working late. Tell them about the traffic. Tell them how tired you are. Make them understand." And before you even realize what you are doing, you open your mouth. You launch into a frantic, angry, defensive monologue. You raise your voice. You bring up things from 3 years ago. And suddenly a small comment about a contractor has exploded into a 2-hour war that ruins your entire weekend. How many Friday nights have you sacrificed on the altar of your own reactivity? This is where the Stoic steps in. The Stoic knows that the most dangerous moment is not the accusation itself, it is the gap between the stimulus and the response. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the Nazi concentration camps, found his freedom in that gap. He said that between what happens to us and how we respond lies our power to choose. But to access that power, you need to hack your own biology. You need the 3-second pause. This isn't just about counting to 3. This is a tactical override of your nervous system. When that accusation hits you, when your boss questions your integrity, when the internet troll comments on your work, you do the hardest thing in the world. You do nothing. You force your mouth to stay shut. You force your body to freeze. And you count. 1. You acknowledge the spike. You feel the adrenaline. You don't judge it. You just feel it. You say to yourself, "My body is entering fight or flight mode. This is just chemistry. It is not truth." 2. You remember the dichotomy of control. You realize that this person's anger is their property, not yours. You realize that explaining yourself right now won't fix their mood. It will only validate their frame. You detach. You step back inside the fortress. 3. You choose. You ask yourself, does this situation actually require my words, or does it just require my presence? It sounds simple, but try it. Try it the next time someone cuts you off in traffic. Try it the next time your mother-in-law makes a passive-aggressive comment about your parenting. The silence that hangs in the air during those 3 seconds is heavy. It is uncomfortable. It creates a vacuum. And do you know what happens in a vacuum? Nature tries to fill it. While you are pausing, while you are reclaiming your sovereignty, the other person is often forced to hear the echo of their own accusation. Without your defensive noise to distract them, they have to sit with what they just said. You will see it in their eyes. They expect you to fight back. They expect the script. And when you don't read your lines, when you just look at them with a calm, grounded intensity, they falter. The dynamic shifts instantly. You are no longer the accused. You are the observer. But be warned, this is terrifying. Your ego will scream at you. Your ego will tell you that silence is weakness. Your ego will whisper, if you don't say something right now, they'll think you're guilty. They'll think you don't care. Let them think it. Is it better to be thought of as cold for 3 seconds, or to be known as a reactive, emotional wreck for a lifetime? The 3-second pause is the difference between being a thermostat and a thermometer. A thermometer just reflects the temperature of the room. If the room is hot, it goes up. But a thermostat sets the temperature. When you pause, you are resetting the temperature of the interaction. You are deciding that you will not be dragged into the chaos. You are deciding that your peace is too expensive to be spent on a cheap reaction. But here is the problem. You have paused. You have calmed your nervous system. You have stared into the abyss of the awkward silence, and you haven't blinked. But you can't stand there silently staring at your boss or your partner forever. Eventually, you have to speak. You have to break the silence. And this is where most people fumble the ball. They win the pause, but then they lose the play because they don't know what to say next. They don't have the words to maintain their power without sounding like a jerk. So once you have gathered yourself, once you have dismissed the jury, what are the specific words you can use to end the battle without firing a single shot? So, you have mastered the pause. You have taken those 3 agonizing seconds to reclaim your nervous system from the edge of panic. But now comes the moment of truth, because you cannot stand there staring blankly at your accuser forever. Eventually, silence must give way to speech, and this is where the battle is usually lost. Because the moment you break the silence, the old programming tries to hijack your tongue. You feel that desperate urge to soften the blow, to add a because, to offer a justification that makes everyone feel comfortable. You want to be liked. You want to be seen as a team player. But today, we are going to replace your old, weak vocabulary with the language of sovereignty. Imagine you are in a high-stakes boardroom. The air conditioning is humming, the glass walls feel like a cage, and all eyes are on you. You have just finished a presentation, and a colleague, let's call him that one person who always needs to be the smartest in the room, leans back and says, "I don't think these numbers are realistic. Did you even consider the market downturn?" The trap is set. He is inviting you into the mud. He wants you to scramble. He wants you to pull up 3 more slides, apologize for the lack of clarity, and frantically explain your methodology. He wants you to dance. Do not dance. Instead, you use a script of sovereignty. You look him in the eye. You keep your voice flat and calm, and you say, "I hear your concern. However, I stand by the data." And then you stop. You do not add, "Because I checked it 3 times." You do not add, "I can show you the spreadsheet if you want." You do not add, "I'm sorry if it wasn't clear." You put a period at the end of the sentence. Do you have any idea how terrifying that period is to a person who is trying to manipulate you? In the grammar of power, the because is a surrender. The period is a boundary. When you strip away the justifications, you are sending a subconscious signal to every person in that room. I do not need your validation to know I am right. Think about the difference in energy. When you explain, you are handing them the authority to judge your explanation. You are essentially asking, is this reason good enough for you? But when you use a script of sovereignty, phrases like, "That's an interesting perspective," or "I'm not willing to discuss this further," or simply, "No," you are keeping the authority inside your own fortress. Why is this so hard for us to do? Is it because we are afraid of being seen as rude? Is it because we confuse politeness with pushover? Or is it because we are terrified that if we don't over-explain, people will think we are hiding something? The Stoics understood that true authority is rarely loud. It is rarely wordy. Cato the Younger, the man who stared down Julius Caesar, didn't win respect by writing long essays defending his choices. He won it through the sheer weight of his conviction. He spoke only what was necessary and not a syllable more. You can apply this to your own life immediately. When your nosy neighbor asks why you are renovating your house, you don't need to give them a budget breakdown. You just say, "It's what works for our family right now." Period. When a friend tries to guilt trip you into going to a party you don't have the energy for, you don't need to lie about a headache or a busy schedule. You just say, "I won't be able to make it." Period. Notice the power shift? You are no longer asking for permission to say no. You are simply informing the universe of your decision. This feels aggressive at first. It feels like you are breaking a social contract. And in a way, you are. You are breaking the contract that says you must keep everyone else comfortable at the expense of your own truth. But watch what happens to the people around you when you start speaking this way. At first, they might be confused, they might push back, but eventually, they start to respect you in a way they never did when you were scrambling to please them. People respect boundaries. They respect a person who knows where they end and where the world begins. However, there is a dark side to this. Most people will eventually accept your new boundaries. They will adjust. But there is a specific type of person who will not accept your silence. There is a specific type of person who feeds on drama, who takes your no as a personal challenge, and who will escalate the chaos just to get a reaction out of you. They are the toxic family members, the narcissistic bosses, the emotional vampires who will not stop until they have drained you dry. Standard Stoicism works for normal people, but for these emotional predators, you need something stronger. You need a technique that makes you not just sovereign, but invisible. For the average person, a clear boundary is a stop sign. They see it, they respect it, and they back off. But you and I both know that the world is not populated exclusively by average people. There are predators out there. There are emotional vampires who view your silence not as a boundary, but as a challenge. These are the narcissists, the chronic manipulators, the toxic family members who seem to derive a sick kind of nourishment from your distress. When you tell them no, they don't hear a decision. They hear the opening bell of a boxing match. They will poke, they will prod, and they will twist your words until you snap. And the moment you snap, the moment you raise your voice to defend yourself, they sit back with a satisfied smirk because they have gotten exactly what they wanted, your energy. So how does a Stoic handle a person who refuses to leave the courtroom? How do you deal with someone who wants to burn your fortress to the ground? You do not fight fire with fire. You fight fire with nothingness. In modern psychology, this is called the grey rock method. But the Stoics were practicing this centuries before it had a catchy name. The premise is brutally simple. If someone is addicted to drama, you must become the most boring, uninteresting, inedible object in their world. You must become a rock. Let's place you in the scene where this hurts the most. It is not the boardroom. It is the living room. It is Thanksgiving Day. You are surrounded by the smell of turkey and the sound of football, but your stomach is in knots. You know she is coming over. Maybe it is your mother-in-law, or a hyper-critical sibling, or that one uncle who turns every conversation into a political brawl. You are holding a glass of wine praying for peace, but here she comes. She corners you by the appetizers and drops the bait with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I noticed you're still driving that old Honda. I guess the promotion you bragged about didn't pay as well as you thought. Huh? The insult is wrapped in a question. It is designed to trigger your insecurity about money, status, and success. The old you, the one addicted to the defense attorney mindset, would jump right into the trap. You would pull out your phone to show her your savings account. You would explain that you are being frugal to save for a house. You would try to prove that you are successful. Stop. Do you see what just happened? She threw a hook and you bit down on it so hard you made your gums bleed. You just gave her 10 minutes of high-octane emotion. You fed the vampire. Now, replay that scene with the grey rock method. She says, I guess the promotion didn't pay well. You look at her. Your face is blank. Your eyes are deadpan. You don't sigh. You don't roll your eyes. You don't frown. You offer zero surface area for her to grab onto. You say, it pays fine. And then you take a sip of wine. You look at a spot on the wall. She blinks. She isn't satisfied. She needs more fuel. So she pushes harder. Well, it just seems irresponsible to drive an unsafe car when you have kids. The old you would scream. The stoic you simply nods, barely moving a muscle, and whispers, that's it. Do you realize how powerful that is? You have given her absolutely nothing to work with. There is no defense to argue against. There is no anger to mock. There is no sadness to exploit. You have become as dull, as heavy, and as impenetrable as a slab of granite. Marcus Aurelius dealt with the scheming politicians of Rome every single day. He wrote to himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He didn't write this to complain. He wrote it to prepare. He knew their nature was to provoke. He knew that if he reacted to their toxicity, he would become ugly like them. So he chose to be a rock. The waves crash against the rock. The waves scream and foam and thrash, but the rock does not scream back. Eventually, the waves have no choice but to recede. Why is this so hard for us to accept? Is it because we have a deep-seated need to correct the record? Is it because we think that if we ignore the insult, we are admitting it is true? Or is it because we are terrified that if we stop engaging, we will lose the relationship entirely? Here is the dark truth about the grey rock method. It works. It works terrifyingly well. When you stop providing narcissistic supply, when you stop offering your emotions as food, the toxic person will eventually get bored. They will try to provoke you a few more times, escalating the attacks, trying to find a crack in the stone. But if you hold the line, if you remain boring, they will eventually drift away to find an easier victim. You are not being passive, you are being strategic. You are starving the beast. Think of your energy like oxygen. Drama is a fire. If you explain, you are blowing air onto the flame. If you argue, you are throwing gasoline on it. But when you grey rock, you are sealing the room. You are removing the oxygen. And without oxygen, even the hottest fire has to die. But be careful, because once you master this, you will realize something that changes everything. You will realize that for years, you weren't just explaining yourself to defend your truth. You were explaining yourself because you needed them to agree with you. You were using their validation as a crutch to hold up your own self-esteem. When you stop caring if the toxic person understands you, You suddenly start to wonder, do I need anyone to understand me? What happens when you finally become comfortable with the idea that people are walking around with a completely wrong map of who you are, and you have zero desire to hand them a compass? That is not just a tactic. That is a spiritual transformation, and it leads us to the most liberating realization of all. Once you have mastered the art of the grey rock, once you have stopped feeding the vampires, you will encounter a new silent enemy. It is not an enemy outside of you. It is a whisper inside your own chest. It is the nagging, burning, itching sensation that comes from knowing. They still think they are right. You walked away. You didn't explain. You held your boundary. But as you sit in your car, or as you lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, your brain starts to replay the tape. You know that right now, somewhere across town, that person is telling a story about you. And in their story, you are the villain. You are the selfish one. You are the cold one. You are the one who changed. And every fiber of your being wants to call them up and scream, "That is not what happened. That is not who I am." This is the final gate. This is the hardest psychological hurdle a Stoic must clear. To pass through it, you must embrace the most terrifying and liberating power in the human experience, the power of letting them be wrong. Let's be honest about why this is so difficult. We live in a culture that is obsessed with reputation management. From the time we are teenagers in high school hallways, terrified of a rumor spreading about us, to the time we are adults on LinkedIn, terrified of a bad reference, we are conditioned to believe that our public image is our lifeline. We think that if people misunderstand us, we are unsafe. We think that if the group turns on us, we will starve. So, when a co-worker spreads a rumor that you are difficult to work with just because you refuse to answer emails at 9 p.m., you panic. You start an apology tour. You start being extra nice. You start overperforming just to prove them wrong. But look at what you are doing. You are contorting your soul into a pretzel just to fit into the narrow, distorted box of someone else's perception. You are trying to be digestible. You are trying to be palatable. But ask yourself this: since when did you become a meal for other people to consume? Why does their inability to see your value mean that your value has disappeared? The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius had a thought that cuts through this noise like a scalpel. He said, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." It is insanity. You trust your own eyes when you drive a car. You trust your own taste when you eat food. But when it comes to your character, you suddenly trust the eyes of a stranger more than your own. Imagine you are holding a diamond, a flawless blue-white diamond. You know it is real. You have tested it, but you show it to a person who is colorblind and knows nothing about gems. They look at it, sneer, and say, "That's just a piece of cheap glass." Do you panic? Do you start crying? Do you spend 3 hours trying to explain the molecular structure of carbon to them? No, you shrug. You put the diamond back in your pocket. You walk away, because their ignorance does not change the composition of the stone. This is the state of mind you must reach. You must realize that other people's opinions of you are not a reflection of you, they are a reflection of them. They are viewing you through the dirty lens of their own trauma, their own jealousy, and their own limited understanding of the world. If someone thinks you are arrogant because you are quiet, that is their insecurity talking, not your reality. If someone thinks you are selfish because you have boundaries, that is their lack of self-respect projecting onto you. When you finally accept this, when you finally say, "Okay, you can think I'm the villain in your story. I permit you to be wrong," the weight of the world drops off your shoulders. It is a physical release. You stop carrying the heavy, invisible burden of managing everyone else's mind. You stop trying to be the PR manager for your own existence. You realize that you are not responsible for their version of the truth. You are only responsible for the truth. But let's not pretend this doesn't come with a cost. It does. The cost is that you will be misunderstood. You will be disliked by some. You might even be judged unfairly by people you once cared about. But what is the alternative? Is it better to be liked for a performance or to be respected for a reality? Is it better to have 1,000 people clap for a mask or to have one person, the person in the mirror, nod in silent approval of the face underneath? When you stop trying to correct everyone's map, you get to enjoy the territory. You get to live your life. You get to do your work. You get to love your family. You get to sleep soundly, knowing that your integrity is intact, regardless of what the gossip mill is churning out. This is the ultimate freedom. It is the freedom of the bad guy. Think about it. In every movie, the villain is often the only one who doesn't care what people think. Now, I am not telling you to be evil. I am telling you to steal the villain's indifference. Steal their ability to walk through a room without needing applause. Steal their ability to be completely, unapologetically themselves. Because when you stop begging to be understood, you start to broadcast a different kind of signal. You stop looking like prey. You stop looking like someone who can be manipulated by a frown or a critique. And strangely, powerfully, this doesn't make people hate you. It often does the exact opposite. When you stop trying to convince people that you are worthy, they suddenly start wondering why you are so confident. They start looking at you differently. They stop seeing a person who needs them, and they start seeing a person who is complete within themselves. And that creates a magnetic pull that is far stronger than any explanation you could ever write. It creates a quality that money cannot buy and words cannot fake. You have cleared the courtroom. You have silenced the defense attorney. You have let the jury be wrong. And now that the noise is gone, what is left standing in the silence? What is this strange, quiet power that radiates from a person who no longer speaks just to be heard? And now, in this quiet space where you have stopped defending, stopped explaining, and stopped caring about the wrong maps in other people's heads, a strange and powerful side effect begins to emerge. It is something the Stoics never explicitly promised as a reward, yet it is undeniable. It is the birth of unspoken charisma. We live in a culture that confuses loudness with leadership. We are taught that to be successful in America, whether you are dating in New York City or networking in Silicon Valley, you need to sell yourself. You need the elevator pitch. You need the perfect, witty comeback. You need to be the most interesting person in the room. But have you ever noticed what actually happens when you try to be that person? Picture yourself at a typical networking mixer. The air is thick with anxiety and cheap cologne. You are holding a warm beer, standing in a circle of strangers, and everyone is doing the same frantic dance. They are listing their accolades. They are name-dropping. They are talking fast, laughing a little too loudly at bad jokes, desperate to prove they belong. It reeks of desperation. When you over-explain who you are subconsciously telling the room, I am not sure of my value, so please, you decide it for me. You are auditioning for your own life, and nobody respects the person who tries too hard to get the part. But now, imagine you walk into that same room wearing your new Stoic armor. Someone asks you, so, what do you do? The old you would have launched into a 5-minute monologue about your title, your struggles, and your vision for the future. The new you simply looks them in the eye, smiles a genuine calm smile, and says, I build software. And then you stop. You take a sip of your drink. You wait. You don't rush to fill the silence. You don't add a nervous disclaimer. You are comfortable in the pause. Do you know what happens in the other person's brain at that exact moment? Their internal machinery grinds to a halt. They are confused. They are thinking, wait, why isn't he trying to impress me? Does he know something I don't? Is he incredibly successful? Is he dangerous? By removing the neediness from your vibration, you create a vacuum. And human nature abhors a vacuum. They will lean in. They will ask more questions. They will chase you. This is the dark secret of charisma. We are obsessed with what we cannot fully understand. If you explain everything about yourself within 5 minutes, you are a paperback book found in a bargain bin. You are easily consumed and easily forgotten. But if you hold back, if you keep the gate to your fortress closed, you become a rare manuscript. You become a puzzle. Think about the most magnetic figures in cinema or history. Think of the strong, silent type, the Clint Eastwoods, the Keanu Reeves of the world. They barely speak. They never explain their motives. They just act. And because they hold their cards so close to their vest, we cannot take our eyes off them. We call this mystery, but the Stoics would call it self-possession. It means you fully possess yourself. You are not leaking your energy all over the floor in a puddle of insecurity. You are contained. You are solid. And in a world of people who are fragmenting and falling apart, a person who is solid exerts a gravitational pull. But ask yourself this: are you brave enough to be that person? Are you brave enough to sit at a dinner table and be the one who listens more than they speak? Are you brave enough to let a moment of silence stretch out until it becomes heavy with tension, just to see who breaks first? Most people are terrified of this. They think silence makes them invisible. But the truth is the exact opposite. Constant noise makes you invisible because you become part of the background, static. Silence makes you signal. When you speak only when necessary, your words gain weight. They land like heavy stones in a pond, creating ripples that last long after you have left the room. People start to wait for your opinion. They start to value your approval, not because you demanded it, but because you rarely give it away for free. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about trying to be cool. This is about the economics of respect, supply and demand. When you flood the market with your words and your explanations, their value drops to zero. When you make them scarce, their value skyrockets. So, the next time you feel the urge to sell yourself on a date or justify yourself in a meeting, remember the power of the mystery bonus. Remember that you are an iceberg. The world only needs to see the 10% above the water, the 90% that lies beneath, the strength, the struggle, the history that belongs to you. It is your treasure. Don't spend it all in one conversation. You have now journeyed through the entire philosophy. You understand the trap. You have the tools. You have the mindset. You even understand the hidden social benefits. But philosophy without action is just a lecture. And I didn't bring you here to listen to a lecture. I brought you here to change your life. We are done with the theory. It is time to test your resolve in the real world. I have a challenge for you, a challenge that will be the longest, hardest, and most revealing day of your life. Are you ready to see if you can actually keep your mouth shut when the world screams at you to open it? Now, we have arrived at the precipice. We have talked about the theory, we have analyzed the psychology, and we have built the fortress. But as Epictetus famously said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. You can watch 1,000 videos like this one. You can nod your head and feel smarter. But unless you take this knowledge out into the messy, chaotic, noisy streets of the real world, it is nothing but intellectual entertainment. So I am issuing a challenge, a direct, physical challenge to your ego. I call it the 24-hour no-explain detox. For the next 24 hours, from the moment this video ends, you are going to put a zipper on your mouth. You are going to go about your life, do your job, talk to your family, and interact with strangers. But you are strictly forbidden from offering a single, unsolicited explanation. This sounds easy, it sounds trivial, but let me warn you, by noon, you will be sweating. Because when you strip away the explanations, you realize just how much of your daily communication is just nervous filler. Let's simulate exactly what is going to happen to you tomorrow morning. You wake up, you realize you double-booked yourself for happy hour drinks with a friend you haven't seen in a while. You are exhausted. You want to cancel. Normally, your thumbs would fly across the screen, crafting a perfect, soft lie. Hey, I'm so sorry, but work is absolutely crazy right now and my head is killing me. Can we reschedule? You add the work excuse to look responsible. You add the headache excuse to gain sympathy. You apologize twice to be polite. Stop. In this challenge, you are not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to decorate the truth. You will type, I can't make it tonight. Let's pick another date. And then you will put the phone down. Your heart is going to hammer against your ribs. You are going to stare at that phone like it is a bomb. You will see those 3 little dots appear as they type a reply. And your brain will scream, they hate me, they think I'm rude, they think I'm blowing them off. Let it burn. Sit with that discomfort, that burning sensation in your chest. That is the feeling of your addiction leaving the body. You are addicted to managing other people's emotions, and for the first time in your life, you are going cold turkey. Why are you so terrified of a simple cancellation? Is it because you are protecting their feelings? Or is it because you are protecting your own image as the nice guy or the nice girl who never disappoints anyone? The challenge continues. You go to Starbucks. The barista hands you a coffee with almond milk, but you asked for oat milk. The old you would say, "Oh, sorry, I think I might have mumbled, or maybe I ordered wrong, but could I possibly get oat milk? My stomach is sensitive." No, the stoic you, the you of the next 24 hours, will simply hand the cup back and say, "I ordered this with oat milk. Could you remake it, please?" No apology, no story about your stomach, no blaming yourself for mumbling, just a transaction. Notice the difference. The first version is a child asking for a favor. The second version is an adult asking for a product. This will feel aggressive to you. It will feel wrong. But pay close attention to how the world reacts. The barista won't hate you. They will just make the coffee. Your friend won't block you. They will just reschedule. The world does not collapse when you stop holding it up with your excuses. And as the hours tick by, as you navigate a conference call without over-justifying your data, as you tell your spouse you need an hour of quiet time without inventing a headache, you will start to notice something strange happening to your energy levels. Usually by 5 p.m., you are drained. You are a husk. You have spent your entire battery life trying to soften the edges of reality for everyone around you. But today, you are full. You are sharp. You haven't leaked your power. You have kept it inside the fortress. This 24-hour challenge is not just about communication. It is a mirror. It forces you to see exactly where you are insecure. If you find it impossible to say no to your boss without a 5-minute explanation that tells you exactly who owns your self-esteem, if you find it impossible to sit in silence with your partner without babbling, that tells you exactly how afraid you are of intimacy. It is going to be the longest day of your life. You will feel exposed. You will feel naked without your armor of words. But if you can make it through, if you can lay your head on the pillow tomorrow night, having spoken only the truth, stripped of all the fluff and fear, you will wake up as a different person. You will realize that the cage you thought you were living in, the cage of other people's expectations, was never locked. You were just holding the door shut from the inside. But once you step out of that cage, once you realize you are free, a new question arises, a question that is perhaps even more frightening than the silence itself. If you are no longer the nice guy who explains everything, if you are no longer the people pleaser who apologizes for existing, then who exactly are you? The answer to that question is the final destination of our journey. We have dismantled the courtroom. You are no longer the accused, scrambling for validation. You are no longer the nervous defendant, begging to be understood. You are the fortress, solid, unmoved, unshakable. But before you click away, listen to me closely. This is not just about social skills. This is about life and death. The Stoics carried a coin in their pocket. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. Look at the clock on your wall. Watch the second hand tick, 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 tick. Those seconds, they are gone. You will never get them back. They have vanished into the void forever. Do you really want to spend your limited, precious time on this earth explaining your existence to people who do not matter? Do you want to lie on your deathbed, looking back at a life spent managing other people's feelings while ignoring your own soul? Enough. It is time to make a choice. We don't just consume content here. we take action. If you are ready to take the 24-hour no explain challenge, if you are ready to kill the people pleaser inside you and reclaim your power, I want you to leave a mark in the comments below. Do not write "great video." Do not write "thanks." Write the words, "I am sovereign." Let that be your first act of rebellion. Let that be the signal that you are done asking for permission to exist. This channel is not for everyone. It is not for the masses who want to be comforted. It is for the 1% who are ready to master their own minds. If that is you, join us, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, because the world is noisy and you are going to need a reminder to stay still. I will leave you with the words of Epictetus. Read them, breathe them, and let them settle into your bones. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Class dismissed.